Let's get building our first site with HAX. So I want you to go to HAX, HAX.psu.edu. Are you there? So for the longest time, you have to be a member of the university, and then you click start. And obviously, you're part of the logo, and then you get a site. You get a site. You don't have to know what any of this is. And then the last month of development took place. And so if you run, in this case, npx, or we could do init hacks the web, but let's just go with this one because it's a little crazy. So if we do npx at hacks the web / hackscms -node.js, and I throw this into a terminal window, which I have open here. So I paste that command, very difficult, I know, and I hit the enter key. It will ask, do you want to proceed with installation? Then I have to hit the enter key again, Y being the default thing that happened, and there we are. Very difficult install routine. This is version 9 of Hacks the Web, and this is primed for revolution. So I can build HAX CMS sites. This, in this case, it's a multi-site, if you will. If you're coming from a Drupal, WordPress, 20-plus-year-old concept, it's 20-plus years old. Those technologies are 20-plus years old. They're 20 years old. 20-year-old technology. Just making sure we're on the same page. So I'm going to make a website that's very difficult in this content management system. Difficulty like 100% difficulty, and it's done. Okay, so then we have the website. What are we doing this whole time as we're building the website? So I'm going to open up another terminal window. What it did is it created a sites directory. Let me open this up in something more friendly. There we go. So you can see there's difficulty 100. The reason there were those two sites there before is prior testing. So if I really want to get rid of those example sites, and they're gone. So difficulty 100 has created a HAX site. So this is an individual HAX capable site. And so what I've made here is static files on the file system. If I go and I hit pages, you can see there's this item with a unique identifier. And let's open this up in Google Chrome, sure. So what we can see here is HTML. And so if in this site, very difficult to edit HTML, you have to learn HTML, or you just hit the edit button, and then I hit enter, stuff and things, if I could spell and correctly, right? And I hit save. If I refresh this other tab, I'm writing HTML, and I'm not writing HTML on the whole template. The entire website is not what's being compiled here or anything like that. What's happening is I'm writing directly to a single file the contents of that little blob of data. And you might say, that's great for unstructured data. And I agree with you. However, web components, which is what this is all built on top, allows us to kind of cheat on prior connotations of what is structured data. So if you need really advanced server-side rendered modules in order to deliver, I don't know, like a multiple choice exam, why? It has nothing to do with the server technology. The CMS is in place. It's because of these technologies that are 20 years in initial convention back that way. Right? That's how we used to have to do everything. There had to be all this rear-facing tech in order to deliver you this experience rendered on the server in order to kick out the other side through lots of people like me working on a whole bunch of different layers of the tech stack. And instead, thanks to web components, we can push everything, or almost everything, out to the front end. So much to the front end that it's a little crazy as far as what we're storing data model wise. So I don't need complicated templates. I don't need this huge gap between the user, the server, all this mesh of Twig templates, server-side processing language to write HTML, to interface with JavaScript, and design it with CSS. I can bundle huge portions of that into a web component, a new HTML tag, and skip all of what I just said. So for example, what I just did, right? I've got the editor in here, and now I can go and modify, right? And I can change what these answers are. Option 1 is HAX, which is the correct answer. 20-year-old technologies, right? And there's a lot of great 20-year-old technologies, right? Like I don't want to have to think about the plumbing in the house. However, I need to pay a technician to fix it and tinker with it and modify my house, structurally if I need to modify my house. However, the house is not the direct line to creativity and self-expression on the internet. I don't need to operate in that way with these pipes and other pieces of infrastructure that are invisible to me, the user, when I just want to put myself on the internet in the easiest way possible. What I'm doing here with this form is I'm just modifying HTML. And in this case, the HTML and the attributes associated with that HTML is multiple choice. This is the multiple choice tag that we go and modify. So I'm not going to save that one. Let's change the theme entirely, right? So if I go and inspect this HTML, look real quick, you can see that a HAX site is driven by something called HAX CMS Site Builder. And in there is a tag, in this case, called Polaris theme. Now, if I know the names of our themes, for example, Clean One, and I wanted the website to look like Clean One, I can modify that template, and now it appears like it's Clean One. Now, obviously, the user audience we're targeting they're not going to go in and inspect. They're not going to know that this is HTML, but that is the same thing happening when I go to Edit Site Settings, and I change this theme to the Clean 2 theme as another example. It's modifying a single property that is then telling a different web component to render out the design in question. And because I'm not compiling all of that data as far as what is in the contents of this page, it's still just this file that only has the content in question. So we get this nice data abstraction layer. So if I want to add pages, it should not be cumbersome, or child pages, or if I need to go and do huge portions of outlining the system, perhaps I duplicate these and we say that this is topic 2, right, versus this is topic 1. And that's not a copy of a page, it's introduction to topic 2, right? Save and say, hey, we're going to create these pages, something will be updated. And it happens, and what's going on the entire time is that we are just adding other HTML pages. And then those are referenced in our database, air quotes, it's not a database, but similar, in this one site JSON file. Right, so we've got our items here. There's a reference that points to that page and has the reference to the title, and then you see it relative to the other items in the page. So the backends for this system are very lightweight to begin with. The entire point is to orchestrate it such that everything you see here, right, and that's less impressive if it's everything I see is just this little silly thing, right? If we go into blocks and we add Spotify or a self-check, or we add images or multiple choice or an audio file or video, or we get into authoring and we make placeholders for future content, or we have a license or our citations, or we have different ways, perhaps we want to have memes on the internet, or we need to do image comparisons, or we need to have GIFs that are funny, so it's a GIF player. Whatever the thing is, if it's on the internet and it has JavaScript, CSS, and HTML, it can be put into a web component and wired into HAX very quickly. Whether that's a QR code or it's our silly RPG character, right? We can just make a whole ton of them and they execute at random, which is fun. Or if we're doing something more advanced, right? A collection layout. This is a series of items. We could have call to action buttons. We could have block quotes. We could have cards, containers, block quotes, anything you would expect from other systems. We also can have highly specific instructional assets like our self-checks and stop notes and mark the words and learning and ebook buttons and H5P integrations and timelines and code samples, right? And yes, we can have bulleted lists and paragraphs and headings and all of those fun, very basic things. Or we could have 3D models, super advanced stuff. We could iframe in content. We could reference Wikipedia. We could put links in the page, remotely reference other things. We could do Twitter embeds. A lot. You can do a lot. And I save. Every time I'm saving something, I'm just reading and writing HTML tags to a file. However, these HTML tags are highly semantic HTML that then is sustainable and maintainable. All right, so if I refresh, these are here. I could right click. That self check is a self check. Self-check. If there's an accessibility issue in that tag, we go and we fix it in that tag. We push out a new version. This is retroactively updated. The hackstheweb.org site, which is largely deprecated because now we keep pointing everything to hacks.psu.edu, keeps looking better because it's pointed to a CDN. So these assets are coming from a content delivery network. When we fix these issues or we fix and improve design issues, aesthetics, and we push that out to our CDN, and that's using the CDN, it looks better. There's no maintenance involved with that site. So everything that I'm doing here, right, is in difficulty 100. I could download this. I could take a copy of it because it's just a directory, right? So there's a zip of the directory. I could go and put that up on the internet. I could throw it into surge.sh rather quickly, or I could go into difficulty 100. And I could run that npx command again. And now it doesn't load with the overarching site with our fun 8-bit world. It's just this site. All right, so you can take sites, you can download them, send them to other people. You can post them on GitHub. You can fork them. It's very, very portable, fluid format that is sustainable and easy to maintain. And we're just getting started because these commands are written for a developer community. And I happen to have to teach 50 to 60 developers a year how to do front-end web development. And wouldn't you know, this forms a really great foundation and context to learn about the web and work within. So we teach web components in the classroom. That means they have to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but learning it in this very specific way that just happens to work everywhere. Our tooling skips tons of initial setup because this is just one piece of the tooling. If we get into the CLI, which is also referenced on here, then we can see that this tooling can do other things. Let's exit out of that. Let's run that one instead. npm init at hackstheweb. This can get into building a singular site, into building and maintaining a multi-site, into just creating new web components if I really want to. All right, so I'm going to put that in there. It's not going to be called my element. It's going to be called the revolution, right? It's a new tag. Author is BTO Pro. Do I want to launch this project, install the dependencies, and put it in version control? You betcha I do. We're not going to link it up to a repo. And Merlin is going to go. Merlin is our kind of persona for an intelligent agent. And so Merlin is currently waving his magic wand. He's going to set us up a new repo, little tiny element to work within. And so while that's happening, you may have seen Merlin is listed in the UI. That's because sorry, it already made the thing. So when Merlin is done, he says, hey, I've subbed a sub-process for you, and I've opened a web browser. If you need to get to this, here's the different ways that you can get to this. Notice they're color-coded differently. This is a big newbie to terminal and web development thing, right? Is copying this line and then saying, hey, it doesn't work, right? So we've got this color-coded. This is where I need to go to work on this. And what it's launched is our boilerplate for a new element. And so these new elements, copy. And so let's cd to that. And then if I type code and then that, right, I've got a nice little working environment for the revolution. And so the revolution is over here. All right, so if I hit save in this panel, over on this panel, I see that change reflected. So what we're stamping out with our boilerplate directly from the CLI is web components that are written in Lit, which is a very popular library from Google. Very, very tiny, super fast, easy to work with, great user experience, developer experience rather, with web components. Those elements also inherit our design system automatically. And so you're building things that you can go and read the design documentation about how to make this look. Oh, wait, in what it's stamped out, there's learn DDD HAX design system. And so it's jumping me directly into the documentation as to how I can leverage the colors, gradients, how our breakpoints are structured, radius for things, how we do drop shadows, ways of manipulating and working with our typography, all of that directly onboarded, spacing, right? All our spacing classes and variable names. And an example of how these things all work together, right? So stamp this out. Oh, it also stamps out with HAX integration automatically, because the way that web components expose themselves to the HAX authoring system is through this little bit of schema. And so it stamps out initial boilerplate that would drop in and work directly with the HAX authoring system. So where we're going next is taking these two things, working through the DX associated with developer experience, if you're not familiar with DX, and ensuring that there is a sustainable developer pipeline that someone that does not currently know the web or how to develop can develop for the web. That is one of the many goals of this project and ecosystem. I want to take you from not knowing what the internet is to directly influencing how it's built, and then let you build sites that you can run on your own that look awesome, that you don't have to know anything about how they work previously to be able to reverse engineer and tinker with. We need to get away from these monolithic platforms built 20 plus years ago that are a tech tree that is this high, that is keeping new voices out of our communities and out of web participation. The only way a normal person can participate on the internet is if they go and pay a company to do so, or if they use a free or freemium service and have some watered down content. They don't own it. It's ephemeral. It disappears. We need to be able to take the web and make it a ubiquitous file format type of an approach, right? No one questions how I'm going to get a Word document from person A to person B. However, when we get into web and creativity and expression online, how the hell am I going to get that? I don't even know what that is. Just shut down. We're not going to go there. HAX can change that. And that's what we're working towards, as I have been every day for the last 9 years. We're coming up on year 10 soon. And that was the plan all along, was that by 2025, we would be able to be set for a web revolution. Welcome to the other side.